Hello, everyone. We're live with a brand new setup, broadcasting from undisclosed location. One person is already here. Hi, Joseph. Hello. Now, let me just mess with some settings while we wait for everyone to come in. It's a warm summer night. Hope wherever you are in the world, I hope you're doing all right. Joseph, can you tell me if you can hear my voice clearly? Oh, 6 people are already watching. Welcome. Hello, hello, hello. Good morning, good evening, good night, wherever you are. We got all the necessary liquids and all the necessary solids. Hello, Ellie. Hello, Benny. Hello, Top Hat. Just gonna wolf down a chocolate bar. Actually, I'm gonna show you how to do a Tim Tams. Whoop. Well, I learned of this in Australia, so they have something called Tim Tams there, but this is not a Tim Tam, this is a chocolate bar. You have your cup of coffee here. Let me just bow this down. Okay. So you take your thing, you bite off one end, take it out, bite off the other end. So now you have a sealed structure like a straw. So now you can use this to drink your coffee. Oh. It just makes me so happy. Just need to wash up, make yourself comfortable. Good evening. I'm so happy to have all of you here. And once more, we are live. I do these off the cuff every now and then, but I hope you enjoy them. I just need to clarify a technical issue. Like when I click this on the mic, do you hear a hard sound? I just need to make sure if this mic is picking up my sound or if it's the computer mic that's doing it. What if I blow into like, do you hear a wind sound? Let's confirm this before I put the perfectionist in me to rest. Toprak says, I joined and the first thing you see he sees is me sucking up a Tim Tam slam. Well, sometimes you witness things you're not meant to witness. What can I say? This, by the way, is broadcasting from the new upgrade I enabled to my computer. Thanks to all of your supporters, all of you supporters support on patreon.com. So thank you for supporting me throughout the months and the years. Is the buy me? Yes, it's just for donations, but you are actually, if you go there, you see some sketches I don't post anywhere else. There are not many of them. So if you want to buy me a coffee, yes. Thank you, Ellie, so much for confirming that there's nothing wrong with the sound. All right. Beatnik Gaming says hello. Top Hat Purple says hello. We got 15 people watching. I should have announced these beforehand. Let me actually drop a link to YouTube to, or actually, I did that. Anyways, I mean, imagine if it's like if you meet 15 people in a room, you would call that a party, no? So thanks for joining me. I'm having a nice summer vacation sort of getaway. I'm actually working during the days, but since the day job that pays my medical insurance and shit is mostly remote, I can do it. Lorelei Shinai has arisen. Hello. Also, let's do a holler out. Where are you all joining from? And let's do a represent kind of thing. Thank you. Ayombi Zandi, everything is as well as it could be. Long Island, New York, Switzerland, Southern California, nice places. USA. Long Island is a great place. Where else? Where else? Northern California. The state of California itself is more represented than my home country. I'm so proud. I wish this was back in the Ellis Island days so I could just pack a bag and hop on a boat and just, join the Statue of Liberty, be profiled for my race and health and profile stuff, and then be part of it. Baja California, Mexico, wow, I love it there. Actually, just in that Gulf, you have one of the rarest species of whales in the world. It's something called a vaquita, which is like literally a tiny dolphin the size of a beagle. I love those things. West Coast Canada, New Mexico, Zeynep Özcan from Kütahya, the local Turkish representative and go-to person for all things magical. She's like a living avatar of Hecate. So, to give a bit of a story to this friendship, Zeynep's mother belongs to a line of like folk art seers or like people who can contact spirits. And after years of college education, now Zeynep herself also has some fingers dabbling in unknown realms. I don't know, one of my coolest friends. South Dakota, Lorelei has just returned from a trip to Utah of and temperatures were 114 Fahrenheit in the late afternoon. That's what I get here too. I'm broadcasting from Muğla province in southwestern Turkey. And like many other parts of the world, we are experiencing a freak hot heat weather. Oh. Lazy Mation Studio says they're a big fan of All Tomorrows. Thank you. Many people come to me from All Tomorrows. Germany represent. Minas Gerais, Brazil represent. This is Brazil, as they say. I have a soft spot in my heart for developing countries like Turkey, Brazil, Indonesia, Philippines, Mexico. Well, Mexico is kind of out of that league now, but still, countries that are not US, UK, Australia, Canada, or certain parts of Europe. I have a sense of respect and solidarity for all of you because, well, only we know what we've been through. HTTH is from Russia. Hello, friend. I hope everything is going well out there. I know it's kind of like tough this time, and I hate it when because of this war, like there's this like disgusting media compulsion to like treat Russians like enemy aliens again. I don't like that. Milady Class is living in the Lehigh Valley for over a decade in Pennsylvania. Well, that's a nice part of the world. Really, lots of nice things I'd like to see there. I remember faintly, like years ago, reading about Pennsylvania folklore, and there was something called a stone carrying ghost, somebody saw somewhere in the Lehigh Valley, basically one of the Amish or like a prudent guy walks in to a place in the forest and there's a ghost carrying a stone, okay? And the Amish guy says something to the effect of like, I'll let you pass when you let go of your burden. So somehow this causes the ghost to disappear. I don't know, it was weird when I read it. Now it's just strange. HTTH is, he lives in Finland, but currently visiting Russia. I hope you're enjoying it. I have never visited the Lehigh Valley. I've only driven through Pennsylvania once. But well, in this day and age, the US doesn't even give us visas anymore. Somebody do something. Brazil with an S. I'm in South Dakota at the moment, another nice place I'd love to go, but probably won't ever. I don't know. I hope I will. Aomi Zandi says, is your microphone sitting like glass? Lol. Yes, it's actually extremely convenient. Just look at this amazing arrangement. I mean, what's there not to like? I could like screw it onto this tripod and like bend over it like an owl. Ain't nobody got time for that. All right, let's have some questions about like life, evolution, shit, sci-fi. You could also ask like real life questions. I'll tell you something about what I've been doing on this sort of holiday getaway. I've been painting a lot. I've been beachcombing and finding this driftwood and shit. And I actually painted this on a piece of tin I found. Nice, high quality, especially with the varnish and all. Top stuff. And the neat thing about this being on a tin plate is like I can just grab a utensil. Medium really is the message. Like this, because this is on a metal plate, I can just. It's the song of the bird, the deity. Nice, huh? This one didn't go very well because I found this on a beach. It was driftwood basically. And after varnishing, now salt is seeping from the surface. So this is a salty bitch spirit. But the good thing about that is I can lick it, and it really is like a salt lick. So tasty. If you have a pet goat or some shit, I'm sure they would like that too. Of course, I've also went to a cardboard wholesaler and got lots of cardboard, and I've been painting on these too. Just look at it while I bring in the other one. So this is the other one. And here's one more. Like I finish 5 to 6 paintings every day. There are lots more you don't get to see. Some with good reasons. Paint. Jurassic Justice says, I've always loved your art. Thank you. It really gets the imagination juices flowing. Thank you. Thank you. I mean, I'm just one of my favorite artists once said, "It's pure joy I'm giving you. Don't look for mysteries or hidden meanings, and it's exactly like what I'm doing. Of course, there's some encoding going on, and if you look at it, you can do some decoding, but really, I'm just creating things that I enjoy to look at. I want them to be beautiful and mystifying, and I want them to be unique, like without seeing my signature after I'm dead. I want people to be able to say, ah, okay, this is one of that guy's works, huh? Okay. Nicholas Conrad says, hello, Mr. Cozy Man. Hello, my friend. Mm. 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 More about South Dakota. It's not great politically. It does have some amazing paleontology. Wow. And you're at the paleo internship. That's really, really nice. I mean, I've kind of become desensitized to bad politics because of where I live. And politically, I've never had my way in my life. So life finds a way. That's nice. Lorelei Sinai asks, that's a lovely last name, by the way. Any other artists you found overrated like Bjork? Many, but I have a policy. I don't like being like, I don't like selling hate in large quantities. I don't like being overtly cynical and like just dissing on people. I think that can like really take over somebody's character really quick. But I mean, I could say Ed Sheeran is extremely overrated. I'd like to punch him in the face. Coldplay, don't even get me started on those. Ah, ay. Get the fuck out of here. Anyways, I'm not gonna let that get deeper into my bloodstream because I have some very sharp views about a lot of things, but no one gets to see them. Aombi Zandi asks, ever heard of Suicide Boys? Are they anything like Suicide Girls, if I may ask? Interesting. Milady Class says, you're such a sweet man. Thanks, ma'am. Thank you. Opinions on Limp Bizkit. Oh my God, Fish, you asked the best question. Best question. And we got like 27 people in here. I'm calling out to all of you. Send the link to this live stream on your socials. Everybody calls them socials now. Bring more people in. Come on. In Turkish, you would say, topla ulan onlar da gelsin. Well, then let me tell you about Limp Bizkit. I think they're like very awesome. I mean, if you really, really angle, like if you're really pushing for a critique, maybe you can say some of their lyrics were like kind of sexist. But I mean, it's. I know Limp Bizkit's a great band from this simple fact. The lead guy, Fred Durst, doesn't take himself too seriously. He's not out there to change the world. He's just entertaining people, and they've got a great sense of like musical originality. If you listen to their riffs without any of like those cheesy lyrics, like they're actually like quite good. Like if you take their notation and transcribe it and play like classical instruments with them, it really sounds like a symphony. And don't even get me started on Wes Borland, my man, who is like, he looks as good as he sounds. I wish I looked like that all the time, like skull face and like reptilian guitar player. That's what I'd like to walk around like. Oh, I got lots of questions. Wait. Have you watched Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse? I love them. They're great films. I think so. They're monumental in two aspects. One being the visual part, which I mean is pretty self-evident. The storyline is really great. It's also like you got to realize before certain films or certain stories, the public at large was completely unfamiliar with some subjects. If you look at the Matrix and the concept of life being a simulation, if you told, like, if you turned a random person from the street and told them like life could be a simulation, like just 2 years before the Matrix was released, they would be like, huh? But then that movie got that idea mainstreamed, and now everybody talks about the simulation, and I mean, it's become commonplace. The Spider-Verse series did that with parallel universes and parallel evolution, and since a lot of this congregation is somehow involved with speculative evolution, I think it's going to do good things for us. I mean, you could show your creatures to people and just say, well, these are like Spider-Verse, but with evolution instead of Spider-Man. So, yeah. Oh, more. Ellie Brooks says, artist, writer, researcher, metal, musician. Nah, musician is a hat I never put on knowingly because, like, real musicians have another sort of training. Hello, Mr. He's just like me for real, says Lorelei Sinai. Thank you. Nicolas Conrad San says, you inspired me to start painting and have done a few recently, which I quite like. Red ink on some big piece of wallpaper, which you get with a giant roll. Yes, actually, I can, like, this is a great recommendation if you're interested in art. Go to actually a paper wholesaler or like a wallpaper wholesaler and just get rolls and paint on them. You can actually cut them to more manageable sizes, or you can just keep them in giant sizes and just work that way. Either way, they're really, really well done. I mean, and don't spend too much money on expensive art paper, especially at the beginning of your career. What do you think about clearly digitally manipulated artworks like glitch art, Y2K, and weirdcore? Asks Jerry Raccoon. I really like those. I mean, charge me guilty as charged, but I think even with a lot of NFT artists being just crap scamsters, there remains a core, very, very diluted core of people who sell NFTs because they live in places like Turkey or Iran or Argentina or Brazil, where the economic situation is dire. And there are a select few creators who push this digital creation to like a very fine extreme. And usually these are in in these genres like glitchcore or like other digital pixel art or something. And okay, these guys are dabbling in NFTs, and NFTs are maybe slightly categorically evil, but remember, these people are in countries like Iran where they have no financial income. So if they sell these as NFTs to like some like high rollers or high school students in the US, okay, I think it's fine in my book. I like those. Milady Class asks, who's your favorite spider person? I like the original, like the OG guy in the Spider-Verse films. Like, I think he's gonna be like the Spider-Man in many people's imaginations. But this being the Spider-Verse, I could like easily picture myself as a Spider-Man. Do you know how male spiders really mate, by the way? Do you know they have these like 8 legs and in front they have these pedipalps? Do you know how they charge those? Do you know what they do with those? Do you know what they get around with those? Maybe I shouldn't tell you, but they basically in them, like charge them, and then they go to their girlfriend and like, yes, it's very sad, but a lot of spiders use fisting as a reproductive mechanism. And if I was a Spider-Man, I think I would be like the Spider Gremlin in Gremlins 2, the new batch, this amazing 1980s creature film. It's about gremlins, but the gremlins are in a magical skyscraper, which is so advanced they even have their genetics lab. Gremlins break out. One of them drinks for the spider DNA, which they have there lying around for some reason, and he becomes the best creature. He's like, I watched this film as a kid. and I pretended I was the spider gremlin. And if I was in the Spider Verse, I would manifest as some creature like that, a sort of wall crawling sage creature. That's me. Marcio Mendoza says, I'm hoping for that Warhammer 40k video. I never played, but I really enjoyed the lore. Love your videos. Cheers from Brazil. Hello, my friend. Yes. Look, I'm really interested in Warhammer, but I've never laid a single brush on a single miniature, or I've never played the games, and I don't know the lore as deeply as I should. I think it's like a mid 20% or something, but I really, really, really like the Tyranids because they're just insects out there to destroy this pretentious fascist empire that is humanity in that world, and all the more power to them. And I just like these like dinosaur insect organic creatures. They're just cool, and they don't have any of those bullshit spirit shenanigans. I've been actually, if you're into Warhammer, I have been accused of being a disciple of Slanish, or that other bird god. In Warhammer, there are chaos gods. There's the boring chaos god, which is like Satan. His name is Crone or something. Then there's another chaos god who is so boring, I even forgot what it was even about. Then there's Slanish, which is like the kinky, sexy chaos god. And I mean, it perverts you or something, but I don't get that. Like, first of all, I'm not a huge fan of like hedonistic characters and in fiction. I think they're all a bit tacky. Whereas if you ever been there, you know that sin is a individual configuration best enjoyed in secret. And you just can't conceptualize that. Or if you conceptualize that, it just falls flat, to be honest. It's all about the people next to you. All right. Then there's this other Tzinch, the other chaos god, which I'm like more of a fan of. Like, if forced to choose a chaos god, I would have to choose Tzinch, which is like this insane bird god, and like some of its playable units are not quite different from things like this, to be honest. And the boring chaos god was, I think, Nurgle, which was a god of rot or something. I know. But so I've been accused of being a disciple of Slanish. I reject, refute, and refuse those allegations thoroughly. Don't have anything to do with that malarkey. Oh, we got lots of comments. Laura Lay, oh yes, that Laura Lay. Okay, my close friend online. Blah 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 asks, do you have an evil laugh prepared? Like this. Lucas asks, are invertebrates better for Spec Evo? This is actually a very interesting question, masquerading as a simple question. Because if you're drawing speculative creatures, or if you're drawing creatures at all, there's a part of the mind that really gets going when you're drawing insect creatures. And I just like segmented things. They don't need to be like insects or invertebrates per se. They could be like reptiles with an exoskeleton or whatever, but those things are really fun to draw. And I think when a person is drawing creatures, there really is a kind of appeal to creating these segmented quasi-insectoid forms. And you could really go places with them. And I think the whole modular approach is also really interesting. I mean, you could just modify the lengths of the legs and stuff and just have your insect creatures. Oh, turns out I didn't even need the goddamn vase. Perfectly fine this way. Hey, says Jaden, close online friend and talented paleo artist and speculative evolution artist. Hope you're doing well. Milady Class says, imagine my sapient hedonist OC Gizmit and their boyfriend. This is from the All Tomorrows universe. And hedonists were these sexually active posthumans as spider people. Wow, okay. It's like a meta of a meta of a meta. That's really interesting. The hedonists are getting a major revision. The broad outlines aren't changing, but I don't know. They're gonna hatch from these like cocoon-like caskets, fully mature, because I don't like the implications of children running around in a society like that. Jaden asks, do you have any advice for drawing creatures in dynamic poses? I'm trying to do it right now and it's really confusing. I just say like find those like 4K videos of cheetahs running or dogs running, pause them and draw just regular animals. And like do that like 5, 10 times and you get a understanding of how flesh and bones move. You gotta practice with boring animals first. Like I don't know, get a get one of those videos open on your desktop, but also have a sheet of paper in front of you, full screen that film, freeze a frame, draw it, and repeat that several times. All right, let's get some more questions. Milady Cass says chocolate starfish and the hot dog flavored water. Mup, 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 map, 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 map. Ellie Brooks ruins my expectations of Suicide Boys. Tragically, they're not like Suicide Girls. What the hell are these Suicide Boys? I need to look them up now. 30 people? All right, keep on coming. Bring your friends, bring your booze, whatever. We got a whole long, sultry night in front of us. Imagine I get really big like Hasan Abi, the other Turkish brother who's really doing well on YouTube. That would be fine. Let's look up Suicide Boys. Oh, it's a hip hop duo. Oh yeah, my dreams are dashed too. What do they look like? Yeah, I mean, look, I respect everything, but not a huge fan of this look, to be honest. That they do they, I don't care. Intense tattooage only makes people manifesting as women look hot. If you manifest as a man, don't do it. Will you just watch MasterChef as well? By MasterChef, you mean Halo? And I'm not very well versed on Halo. Somebody else was asking about Halo here. Let's look. You Halo, Halo, Halo. Nicholas Conradsen says Halo is something quite dear to him. Yeah, thank you. The whole idea of the Covenant, which is like an alien union of invading races. Halo just came out during the years of the Iraq War, and they had the coalition of the willing and stuff. And I always pretend that that was like a smart, very smart pun on the state of the democratic world at that time, the early 2000s. I might be wrong. What do you think of Five Nights at Freddy's? Talk about something with some weird lore. I've been hearing about Five Nights at Freddy's. Oh, it's this video game with the teddy bear. Teddy bear actually looks like this evil teddy bear from Toy Story 3 or something. I've never played this, but I've always heard people say interesting things about this game. Sadly, the whole like weird toy aesthetic doesn't really push my buttons, but I keep an open mind. I mean, maybe there's an amazing in-universe thing here. It's just something I never had the time for. Robin Hood asks actually a very nice question. Do you experience different types of dreams depending on where you sleep? I'm asking on I'm asking because I do. If so, how does Mula influence your dreams? This happens to me sometimes, but when I first get to a new place, it happened to me a lot in Ankara, which is like the Turkish capital, and like imagine Istanbul is New York and full of parvenus and wannabes and upstarts, and Ankara is the place where all like kind of like smart people with something to do in life go to. That's a nice place. So whenever I visit there and like sleep in my first night, usually at a nice, comfy 3-star hotel, I have these like cathartic dreams about my family or dead relatives because I was born in that city, and that's something there. My first few nights in Mula, I better not tell you the dreams I've been having, but I mean, I've been nocturnal emissions, which make me feel quite young and humbled, really. What are your thoughts on the synthpop duo Suicide? I know a band called Local Suicide, but they're like a bunch of my Greek friends from the city of Thessalonica, which I met over a decade ago. They're not as famous. Blah 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 asks, wasn't meme already a word in the Turkish language? If so, what do you call memes then? Well, we call memes. Meme is a word in Turkish, but it means boobs. But there's like people know what you're talking about. If you say meme oldun abi, you know what you are. If you say meme oldun abi, you know what you are. HTTH says, what's your solution to the trolley problem? It's that problem where like you have to pull a lever and you have the choice between like having a train hit 5 people or having a train hit 1 person. I would, if someone had a gun to my head and I had to make a choice, I would rescue 5 people. Joe Strummer of the Clash really was born in Ankara, actually, and it's like his father was part of the British diplomatic corps, and it's just one of the many, many talented people who had a presence in Turkey, actually. One of the chief African American rights activists actually was so disillusioned with American society that he traveled to Istanbul. He was also a gay man, and like he felt more liberated in 1950s Istanbul than he was in Jim Crow America. So the name of this very famous person sadly eludes me at the moment, but it's one of the nice things I feel proud about my country. All right, let's get more questions in. I'm really enjoying tonight's conversation, by the way. Let me just check some messages. Just a second. Mm-mm-mm. Just a second, some background messaging I need to take care of while we wait for questions to percolate. All right, we're back. Do you have any thoughts on the current state of wildlife management? Zoology PhD student currently working for a state wildlife agency. It's a very, like, it's a subject I'm familiar with slightly, but not also deeply familiar with. Basically, I think the best wildlife management is like not having any people in an area for like 100 years and nature finds a way. In some more developed countries, especially the UK, they like micromanage wildlife. Like they know individual numbers of things and like count everything and like codify everything. What's the end game here? Like increasing biodiversity, preserving a certain species, or even things like improving forestry or farming. I think for wildlife management, you actually like you need to have policies first, and you need to have like what do we want to do with this mess that is nature. And usually, I might be wrong, but if it comes down to, I think it mostly comes down to just not having people fuck around with nature too much. Just get them out, and things sort themselves out. Eiley, my king, says Simoido. YouTube Joseph says, just started taking pictures of my All Tomorrow's fan art to a Google Talk. Yeah, please send them to me. I'll take a look at them. 29 people with 27 likes. Thank you all so much. All right. I love this like little icons in the back where like love is pouring out of the ground, and it makes me feel like there's like lots of love coming from dozens and dozens and hundreds of people. They really know how to press people's buttons for dopamine with those icons. Joseph asks, will you put my fan art in the new book? Unfortunately, it will only have my art in it, Joseph. It's not something directly linked to you. So, but I will look at your work and I will critique it. Let's get some more questions. Let me scroll back a little. Benny says, getting into real music isn't that hard. It is a learned craft and not a talent. And I somehow agree with this, but I know the best musicians usually have some like training that starts from childhood. And it's one thing, like I have a voice that's not so bad, and I've got a nice vocal range. I can hold vibratios, which is like something quite interesting. And I'm actually a really good whistler. I could go like, now, this I'm proud of, but the other aspects of singing and songwriting and like my level of being a good musician is being somebody like David Bowie, who like it's one thing to sing something and you can be quite good at it. It's another thing to write this thing and like make it come to life all from out of nothing. And people like I don't know David Byrne, David Bowie, uh, Gary Newman, I mean, they have a whole other spectrum of talent, which like I won't even begin to pretend I'm good at. Alien Cat asks, gay rights? Of course, come on. Yani, for what I don't know what people are even. I don't know why this has even become an issue. Like I'm the full LGBT ally all the way. And like let me tell you, people have all stages of life in them. So all these, I mean, I don't want to turn this channel into a political channel, but this is beyond politics. Many people I know are not of vanilla sexuality. And like my whole concept of gay rights or gender minorities, it's such a private thing. Everybody can be everything at different times of their lives if they want it. You have to realize a person, a person's soul, a person's personhood, their character. We like to think it's like a unitary state, like in our mind there's a president or emperor, he gives the orders and the rest of our being follows. It's not like that. Every person is a loose alliance of savage tribes, and there's nobody alive who doesn't have storms raging inside them. Sexuality could be part of these storms. And it's interesting how, as basically the United States and the UK are like progressing along this way, they're also creating all these subcategories which are kind of good for people to know what they are, okay? But you just can't be anything. You don't even need to explain. I mean, you can't do anything. Hello, everyone, says Mystic Mystery. Hello, everyone. Are all tomorrow questions allowed now, lol? Well, they're kind of not. But I, it's in my discretion, I kind of said some stuff about it. Blah 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 says, I forage wild mushrooms and plants. Do you enjoy mushrooms or truffles? Fuck, I love truffles. I was gifted a jar of truffle olive oil, and I put that on everything: rice, pasta, off eggs. Actually, one of my funniest adventures was I was basically doing a research book about village cemeteries in rural Turkey, and this book is called The Forests of the Afterlife. So go Google that. And in one village cemetery, I mean, these are like really overgrown and like strange places, okay? I was just rooting around and suddenly I found these big tubers. I found a load of truffles which sell for amazing. So I collected these roots and tubers. I had a whole bag of them and I was like hiding them in case like someone saw me. Then turns out these were not truffles, but they were basically cyclamen roots. So next day I went back to the cemetery, drove like 30 miles or something up a mountain again, and put them back where I found them because cyclamen plants are also endangered. So yeah. Mystic Mystery is very sick right now. Oh, hope you get better. I did eat those cyclamen roots, which I thought were truffles, and they were kind of bitter but also cool. Speaking of eating weird plants, I have this thing like I love going out on treks and like interacting with nature. And sometimes I have these like compulsive urges to eat, especially if they're like little flowers or orchids or shit. So once on a trip, I found a plant which is called a friar's cowl. It's like this weird small, like it looks like a little cobra actually, kind of like a pitcher plant, but it's not a pitcher plant. It looks like a weird cobra pitcher plant. So this plant was like begging me to eat it. I get like a lustful sense of joy from like devouring them. So I ate it. Turns out Arisarium vulgare is the last scientific name, by the way. Arisarium. Turns out these things have these like crystalline toxins in them. And the whole night, first my tonsils got sore and tight, then my throat had a little difficulty breathing. Then it went down my tube all the way down to my neck, all the way down to my stomach. And in my stomach, I think the acid dissolved this poison, but I was really scared. It was really stupid. So don't do that. First rule of all tomorrows is don't eat strange plants you find in the undergrowth. More questions, more questions. Let me check my messages on the other end. Just a second. Just 1 second. All right. Somebody said, "You're so based, Mr. Köseman." Thank you, milady. My best wishes to the Lehigh Valley. You got those like weird, abundant steelworks and stuff around like Bethlehem and stuff. Nice place. Jaden says, "Your stomach is seriously made out of iron," referring to that accidental plant eating kink poisoning story I just recounted. Thank you. Either my stomach is made out of iron or my brain is made out of stone. That was a really dumb thing. Lorelei shows, "First, when I saw your tangent on eating invertebrates, I was just mesmerized." Okay, don't do this, please. Like, if you want to be people, if you want to be people who like walk, look like me, walk, talk, and act like me, but don't eat goddamn plants, really. Lucas asks, "Would snakes evolve legs again if they were in a seed world?" For our viewers, let's kind of expand the idea of the sea world, seed world. It's a world in which like you have a basic ecology and then you drop only one kind of vertebrate animal, like only snakes or like only turtles or only fans, that kind of world. And they evolve and diversify into weird shapes they would not diversify otherwise. Now, a snakes might evolve legs again, but would they be legs like the legs they had lost, or maybe they would be secondarily leg-like structures, like movable scales anchored to a layer of muscle outside the body and stuff? So, like that sort of thing is more likely, I think. More questions about the more remarks about the Lehigh Valley from Milady. God damn. State of the world, huh? I mean, I will repeat this call. I always make it in my podcast, but if you know any institutions or places that could like invite me for a talk and something, I would really love to come to the United States. So like just think about it and spread the word if you can. Blah 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 says, "The plant you ate sounds like a jack in the pulpit." Yes, that probably was oleic acid. Yes. This whole story started when I was in like primary school and I was like eating ants to basically scare other kids. And I had the whole repertoire of tricks just to scare people. I don't know. I was really like not not even like asocial but antisocial until later in high school when I got a girl. I had this like genie trick. Okay. This is a trick that only I could do. So basically, you're about to see a revelation for the first time. God damn. My Okay, this is my right foot. Okay, perfectly normal. All right. This is my left foot. Just look. It's a monstrous thing. I mean, I'll put them. So the cool thing about this left foot is that its digits are hypermobile. So I could do things like this. You see, and like knock it against a flat surface and make sounds. So one of the neater tricks I did with like my friends was Basically, I collected them all around me and said, now we are summoning spirits. And the room would be dark and shit, and it would be like this. If you're here, knock once. And then with my foot under the table, with that toe action, I would do, and everybody would be scared. And I would say, is somebody on this table gonna die? Knock once if no, knock twice if yes. Then below the table with my toes, I would go, and they would freak out. Coffee Skeleton Films asks, how much should one worry about scientific realism when creating a Spec Evo project? I'm working on bits and pieces of projects, but I'm fascinated and overwhelmed at the same time. If that's overwhelming, you just leave your projects as fragments and just have a whole multiverse thing, and you call it fragments from parallel worlds, and develop your projects that way. I used to be more rigorous about this, but nature always throws curveballs. Like hummingbirds, they're like theropods converging with insects. I think like just draw creatures and have fun. That's all. Don't get hung up on realism too much. The first few projects you create, if you're like more loose in that approach, like read up on the science and like anatomy by all means, but the first projects you create might be a bit like they might not be perfect, but then you just develop a rhythm and a tone of your own, and you create your things and worlds and just have fun. Ellie Brooks says, isn't the toting exactly how Mary Todd Lincoln was duped? Let me look up Mary Todd Lincoln. I've never heard of her. Oh, Abraham Lincoln's wife. Was he like duped by a spiritualist? Maybe, maybe. I mean, there are like these common tricks. Could be. I don't know. Milady says some specular people are such sticklers for. Okay, now I have to say something about the community. Some specular people are such sticklers for realism. It's annoying. Yes. Look, I don't understand why anybody would want to tear anybody else's work unless they were asking for like openly asking for critique. And even then, you have to be a bit cordial. I don't get these people who are saying, "Oh, this is unrealistic." Get fucked. Come on. A world in which any person is creating even like the worst spec of a project is still infinitely better than a world in which that person is not creating anything. And you're taking that away from them. Come on. The whole reason people escape into these fantasy worlds is because they want to be free from like these nagging manipulative naysaying assholes. I don't see why it exists in this space, to be honest. Spinozar says, Merhaba, Rabbi Kozaman. Hello to you, my child. What are your thoughts on taxidermy? Asks Ava F. Let's do another roll call, by the way. If you just came in late, where are you from? Let's let everyone say where they're from, unless you did it in the first round, and let's see where our audience is from. Represent everyone. Represent. While I mention my thoughts on taxidermy, I think it's a great art and kind of a dying art too. It's basically like, I used to think as a child, they somehow like freeze the animal, but they basically skin the animal and just build a sculpture of it and then put the skin over the sculpture again. And it's like it's nothing like freezing an animal. And there's a lot of effort that goes into that. I respect it. So, Colorado represent. Big ups from Hungary. Yes, fellow Ural Altaic brother. Texas, Croatia, nice. Northern Colorado, Texas again. Spain, another much love from Brazil. Hello from Israel, says YJ. Hello, hello. If you know, you know. Cult leader Kozman says, yes, that's exactly, but I'm the kind of cult where everyone's encouraged to think for themselves, and most cults work on manipulation. Like there's one leader and you have to like obey him or her. And by like offloading your decision making process to that person, you actually relax. But I'm like the exact opposite of that. Rhode Island, smallest continental United States state, also originally from Ukraine. Hello to you, Spino. Milady says, do you believe taxidermy is cruel to animals? If the animal died a natural death, no. But I don't like the whole thing of like hunting animals and then stuffing them as mementos. But if you had a pet, it's a like very valid option. Like we have a family cat here somewhere, and if when she dies, I wouldn't mind taxidermying her. So yeah. Let me check some more messages in the background while you ask some more questions. Some serious stuff. This is your chance. Come on, ask them on. Milady says, do you watch any YouTubers? Yeah, actually. If you go to my YouTube and just follow the pages I follow, you see the pages I follow, you kind of know who I am watching. I watch a lot of shit. Like before 2018, I used to follow things from the right as well as the left just to keep my pulse on, keep the pulse of the US political developments basically. But then I just realized a lot of the right wing people are like literal Nazis and like grifters and shit. So they're fun to listen. They do some great banter, and they're very good on hate talking. Like, and it's like people have a psychological need to like listen to hate. By the way, you have a psychological need to hate, so you relax, and they really fulfill that part of the dopamine addiction. But they have nothing to give to society, and their legacy will be a stupid one. People like Sargon of Akkad. Their kids are gonna look him up and oh yeah, dad was like, yeah, just put it aside, man. Lucas asks, is Earth a seed world? Like life came from an asteroid? Well, yeah, if you consider like some proto-Archean bunches of proteins in a meteor as seed, but then the range of possibilities is so large that it kind of like violates the entire subject. What are you drinking? Asks Milady. Well, it's my good old 2-in-1 coffee with an extra helping of milk. It's just coffee dust and milk dust, and I will never get tired of these like cheap, ready-made stuff. It's also not unhealthy at all, to be honest. Creature Man says we all witnessed. What did you all see, man? Spinotzar says, which Turkish coast is your favorite? Well, Turkey is surrounded by seas. There are different, according to one's definition, several Turkish coasts. There's one on the Black Sea coast, which I haven't seen much of, but it's like murky and dark and wild and untamed. Also, the people there are like mostly based, but in some of their big cities, they're a bit repressive. I don't know. I've never been there, so I shouldn't pass judgment. My favorite part, I think I like all Turkish coasts. I like all coasts generally. And like in this day and age, especially in Turkey, our economy is really collapsing. It's really a privilege to be on a coast, and so like anywhere, it's really a real privilege to take a vacation. So you get any coast you get, basically you take it. Benny asks, what do you think is a good way to start learning to write stories? It's an art form I never quite managed to get into. I mean, the way I write my stories, I sometimes record them and transcribe them and then edit them, or I just write them on pieces of paper and type them up later. Basically, with stories, every story writer has their own thing. Think about the ending first, because a lot of times you start a story and you have your characters, maybe you think about some interesting scenes, but they kind of falter after like going around for a while. So think about the ending first, and maybe the ending doesn't even have to be an action thing. It could be just like, I mean, I was reading the memoirs of Lewis Mumford, who's one of my favorite philosophers. He's an American architectural critic, has some really nice stuff to say about like city design and also industrial society. He's like a more based and like less murderous version of Ted Kaczynski. But he was also like, this guy lived basically from the 1910s to the 1970s, and he was just a man of letters. So he wrote about everything. He didn't shoehorn himself into roles like we do today. So he also wrote a lot about like, well, basically being in love with somebody in secret, okay? And when he was writing about that, he said something to the effect of, there are unseen mountains, invisible except in the right angle of light or something. Basically, he was saying like he was thinking about this girl or whatever all his life, okay? And it's just there, like, but nobody but him can see it. So if he sees it, it's like a gigantic mountain, but nobody else can see it. So if you maybe change that into a weird story, maybe imagine like an actual weird mountain that only appears at a certain time of the year, or if you like when the stars are in a certain conjunction or something. So make the discovery of that thing the final act, and then work your way back and then write your characters forward. Also, I think the best way to write stories is just to read a lot, but don't read the kind of stuff you are going to write. Read everything else so you develop a repository of information, repository of cool things. So there, hope it helps. Milady says, I asked some questions that you missed, but it's okay. Can you paste them again or ask them again? There have been a lot of questions. I have to miss some, okay? I'm sorry. I mean, everyone. Lucas says, you eat meat? Yeah, I eat meat. I just ate some meat some hours ago, and it was great. What do you think about War of the Worlds by H.G. Wells? And if you have read it, I think it's one of the greatest works of fiction ever. I'm not even saying science fiction. Remember, H.G. Wells almost did everything from a like standing start. So not only is there an invasion of the planet, but there's like premonitions of air warfare, gas weapons, and basically the whole. He really puts post-Victorian society into its place by like they were so haughty, but they were regarded by vast intelligences larger than their own as a cat would look at a mouse. Philosophically, it's a very satisfying book. Also, like action-wise too, it's a great book. It's one of the like. It's like this one of this century's epics. I love it. Milady asks, "Do you like any review YouTubers?" Unfortunately, no. I mean, I do some movie reviews myself, but review YouTubing, I'm a more I value my initiative. Like I should be able to post a weird expedition video someday, or talk about birds the other day, or like do podcasts like this another day. So if I'm stuck to just reviewing things somebody else already made, what does that get me? But page viewers and subscribers and money. But that's just come on. You need a criminal with more class in this town. That's not to disown them. I think they're great channels, and they should like really dedicate themselves to their craft. So all the better for them, I guess. Creature Man says we all witnessed. I like these random utterances. Spinotzar will be coming to Arnavutköy this August. It's that part of Istanbul. Go to the forests. Actually, find me on my email and write to me, and maybe I'll even meet you. It's a Midwestern thing, says blah, blah, blah. What is a Midwestern thing? I missed it. Geosan asks, there are some philosophers talking about the end of what began in the age of enlightenment, people becoming increasingly disappointed and disillusioned with science. Do you think this is good or bad? This is such an amazing question that I need to get some extra snacks to answer it in full, but I will answer it. So, Death by Proxy turned 22. Happy birthday! Congratulations! Happy birthday to you! Happy birthday to you! Happy birthday, dear Proxy. Happy birthday to you. Hey. Okay, I'm gonna get some extra shit and then I'm gonna answer the shit out of this amazing question you just asked. Boop, 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 boop. 1 second. Where's the goddamn cat? I'm doing something I rarely do. I almost never drink alcohol, but in this, the people who I'm sharing this house with do. They left some wine around, just a little, just enough for me. So I'm going to dilute this with water and drink it. Mm. This is like 80% water. 80% water, but it will make me look like a wino, I think. Okay, end of enlightenment, and people increasingly getting disillusioned by science. I believe that basically in the last 20 to 30 years, maybe 30 to 40 years, we have seen a cancerous expansion in the way people quantify things and kind of regulate things and look at everything in terms of data. And this started with a byproduct of the Industrial Revolution, but then it crept up to basically all of white collar work. And to this day, now even like many human things that should be maybe private and unmentioned are quantified in terms of like, if you even think about like NGOs, they think, oh, we donated this many millions of dollars, this many blah 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 blah. I mean, this is not to discredit them, but everything has become quantified, and the people doing this quantifying and doing this kind of overtly managerial stuff, they are actually so out of touch with reality, like you would not believe. So I think the backlash is against that sort of like overtly corporate scientified or overtly corporate quantified view of the world. And I think that's very righteous. Even when people doing it are like cringe and dangerous, like those QAnon or flat earth types, maybe they're not actually, they don't have a problem with science, but they have a problem with the disgusting way educated upper middle class people carry themselves all around the world. And I've seen this in the States, seen it in the UK, I've seen it in Turkey, I've seen it in many other countries. Basically, like once you're educated, you become completely blind to the possibility of other lifestyles, working with your hands and doing real things, physical things. And you look at the whole world in terms of data and representation and statistics. How reliable is this? What is the accident rate? Now get the fuck out of here. That's not how life works. So the backlash is, I think, against this like silent color blindness and creeping classicism. Everybody's talking about all these like online leftists. They're talking about the new leftist revolution, proletariat. Actually, it's happening right before you. Only it's happening at a level that's not very aesthetic looking. That's class struggle, struggle of people who went to college with people who did not. And if the latter party wins, there will be a rollback. But I don't think like anybody's gonna like discredit the metric system or like deny that water boils or something. Remember, the parts of quote unquote science that are getting critiqued are like the murkiest, shadiest, and least easy to understand bits. I mean, stuff like space expedition. What does it do? What good does it do to somebody who can't feed their children? Or this annoying COVID skepticism. I mean, if the government like fines you this much and shuts everybody in their home, but then somehow, if you're working, you can take the bus, but you can't get out of your house, only to walk your dog. This is like, this rubs people the wrong way. And I think one of the greatest challenges for anybody in the coming decade or so is going to be able to navigate this. like, how do you continue involving yourself with science or like logical policies without coming across as a cunt to people who work with their hands? And I'm sorry, but like some of these people, they're so prudish and classist, and they deserve anything that's coming their way. I mean, I don't know. What do you think about it? So the disillusionment is not about the age of enlightenment itself. It's about basically uh, college-educated, upper middle class people rubbing less fortunate people the wrong way, and I think that's the disillusionment right there. Oh, lots of comments. So let's me do a little reading. Milady asks, what do you think about all tomorrow's fan-made universes? I support all of them. Make them all. Make as many universes as you want. I really support them. Have you read A Mote in the God's Eye by Larry Niven and Jerry Pournelle? I haven't actually. I should actually. I read a lot of books by Larry Niven, but not that one. Death by proxy. Yes, your messages are getting through. There is a 6-second chat posting, so maybe that's not why it's getting through. Spec Evo trilobites sound awesome, says Squid Lord. Lots of hearts are coming. You're hearting me. Thank you. 31 people, almost 1 hour and a half. You're still here. I can't believe you. How can you take my drivel for so long? Gunnar asks, how do you feel about the apparent rise in astrology, tarot, crystal healing, and other mystical pseudosciences? They're very pervasive in the part of world where I'm from, in Turkey. They're extremely pervasive. Like even people who like are otherwise very logical, like fall into them. I know like a very famous I know a very famous film director who regularly went to an astrologist. And one day the astrologist said like something to the effect of something horrible will happen to you. And this guy was depressed for like 2 weeks straight. And then everybody around him was like, snap out of it, blah, blah, blah. But then a couple of years later, his son actually killed a couple of people in a wild car accident. So maybe that was premonition. Who knows? So these things are rising all around the world, and I think they're healthy reactions in quotes to how unpredictable the world is getting. And like it's a kind of banter kind of thing. Like remember earlier in this live podcast, I told how a person is not an empire, but actually a loose amalgamation of warring clans. So in everyone, there are some clans who battle for mystic stuff or like who enjoy that stuff. I think the trick is to like really be able to like poly model. So you should like enjoy the lore of that for what it is and just make logical decisions elsewhere. But yeah, some people take it too far, to be honest. They're also like they're very visual things like crystals or these moon archaeology t-shirts. Like they're like part of people's visual identities. People construct identities and oh, she's the weird moon astro girl, or she's the crystal girl, or something like that. Any thoughts on copyright, says Benny. I really dislike how no one. Oh, yeah, I agree with this. I agree with this. So basically, Benny says, I really dislike how nobody can write a Spider-Man comic or reinterpret music and publish it. And yes, some companies, especially Disney, they're extremely litigious and they just give everyone a hard time. Maybe if this whole thing wasn't tied to the concept of making money, then maybe we need to think about our systems. I think certain parts of societal endeavor must be state sponsored or even managed with a sort of internally handled form of socialism. And I think these include education, health, food production, housing. You can still be an entrepreneur in other venues, make iPods, I don't know, farm wine. I don't care about those. But the brass tacks must be, I think, covered somehow. And maybe arts and culture should be included in this thing. Who knows? I mean, for a fraction of military budgets, many countries can employ every outsider or every artist in their population. And this would make those countries more livable and not just progressive, but advantageous to begin with. Because ideas trigger other ideas, and that triggers innovation. So even if I think you are like a pragmatic capitalist type, you should support arts just in case. Because these are also like areas where people come together and create new ideas, and it's just so fucking, I mean, you have to realize many artists just need a roof over their head. They don't need anything extra or luxurious. So just sponsor 1 million illustrators for life. Who cares? They can do this like that. Also with music, the whole thing with copyright, yeah, especially like when these things become automatic on YouTube and stuff, they're a pain in the neck. I think like you should be able to make anything, but also not worry about selling them either. It's a weird tangled ecosystem. I don't know. The Dark Master says, you missed my question. The reason I think mythical stuff has is that humans need something to believe it in. I more or less agree. Like people do need something to believe in, but I don't see this as a kind of like, those people without something to believe it, they go out of control or something. I think that's a reductivist view. I think in our heart of hearts, we have a hunger for mystery or revelation. That's what it all comes down to. Idle speculation says, I saw a comically small frog while walking my dog today. And that got me thinking about Pycozoans from Snaiad. Do you think vertebrates could do something similar in worlds without arthropods? So, Snaiad is my alien design project, and Pycozoans are like animals there. They are basically descendants of vertebrate animals, but they're so small, they're the size of mites or even ants or stuff like that. So, yeah, I see no reason why this shouldn't happen in a world without proper insects. Geosan says Turkish history is very tied to astrology. Is it? Maybe the history of Anatolia is. There's a famous Hellenistic astrologer named Vettius Valens who lived in Antioch, and on his birthday, the great earthquake happened in 6th of December last year, 2022. Maybe, I don't know. I don't know much about astrological history in general, to be honest. And someone was asking if how it was working as an astrologer. To clarify, I did not work as an astrologer. I worked as a advertising copywriter for a chewing gum brand, which kind of focused on like fortunes, and like it was basically a chewing gum that was like a Chinese fortune cookie. So when you got the gum, out came a little piece of paper with fortune in it. So they wanted to diversify and like have content about astrology. So I just made some shit up and I don't know that much. Death by proxy says insects are guys but small. Correct. Oh, Spinosaur asked the best question. Best question. If you no longer had to work as an artist or a podcaster, sad but okay. And if you had to be stuck in a different culture, which one would be the hardest for you to be stuck in? And which one would be the easiest? I'll give a counterintuitive answer to this. I think the easiest one would be a very traditional Oriental society, thinking of something like Afghanistan or so I could just because in these societies, people are quote unquote lazy or whatever, but they're also respected to be who they are. If you're in the West, you're basically in the West, you're forced to weave two cocoons around yourself. First, you are you, then you create an image of you as a person. He's an economist, she's a data scientist. Ah, she's a chemist. Ah. And then you create a persona around yourself. And then, if you want to move one rung above the ladder, you have to create a company around the persona which does that work. And like you're the computer guy, so you're so into computers. So you always, everything you say or do has to be related to computers somehow. And then if you really want to like have a house with a swimming pool and get the Tesla, well, you need to have a computer company because you're the computer guy. But in reality, who's the real you? And then you're all surprised why they all commit suicide or shoot up schools because this is what Western society does. So if I was forced not to be an artist or a podcaster, I would just, I don't know, take opium in an Afghan den and just dream my life away. That's, I would live longer too. If I don't follow my passions, why would the fuck would I be in that ambition driven culture? Milady as thoughts on I Have No Mouth and I Must Scream. It's this body horror science fiction book where people turn into these like faceless meat things, but I haven't read it, so no views. Laura Leigh Sinai said they saw a harvest man in an aviary in Salt Lake City. Nice spot. Did you ever hear about the legend of Lord Miles? I thought not. It's not a story the Jedi would tell you. Okay, Lord Miles is actually one of the YouTubers I follow, and he has some like iffy views about race and immigration. But credit where credit due, this person is totally unhinged, extremely brave, and unlike some of the more questionable like extreme travel YouTubers like uh, Bold and Bankrupt, he doesn't seem to be a sexual predator. So he's okay in my book. And he did go to Afghanistan and was like, I don't think he was kidnapped by the Taliban, but because he was a British citizen, he was like considered to be in risk and they had him hide somewhere. So he went back and like, he's an ambitious guy. That's all I could say. Idle speculation says, if magic were real, how do you think animals and plants would utilize it? That's very interesting. I mean, something like this was actually considered to be real for quite a long time. Animals were taught to have this kind of mesmeric sense, where you could like stare at thing and like mesmerize it and like do something to its vital energy. And in fact, there are like quote unquote scientific reports from the early 1800s about like how snakes can like look at birds and scare them to death. Maybe that's real. So a kind of like weaponized version of charisma energy, I think, is what it is. And I think I think it would be used that way if you really used like levitation or something. You could have animals that fly by levitation, which is always a fun concept to consider. So the part of your brain that handles the levitation magic is really big. So you're basically like a big floating head. And the more advantageous animals could have like flat blade-like shapes where they don't lift themselves up, but they basically magically move the air below them really fast. So it creates a Bernoulli effect, and the thing flies by itself like psst. Nice ideas to think about. You introduce rock and roll to them, says Gabriel, which I think pertains to my choice to live in Afghanistan if I had no way to be an artist or a creative person. I think the Afghans know rock and roll. Look, everything you know, probably they also know. It's just that they have a different way of life. And like when you're dealing with people in the periphery, don't make that mistake. People are really smart. I think they know David Bowie and shit, and they might even like them. FPS Diesel did a live stream on Lord Miles. I should look at this. FPS Diesel is an underrated YouTuber. Also, if you know any famous YouTubers, get me in touch with them and let's have a talk with them. One of my ideas was there's this futurist guy who talks about Dyson spheres and Kardashev civilizations. And I would like to have a like not a debate, but a talk about him. He seems to be a irredeemable techno-optimist. Well, whereas I'm a techno, I think technology goes only to a certain distance. So I would love to like compare an ideas and talk and let the viewer decide who was in the right. In debates, I have no axe to grind, but only my thoughts to burnish. So Curious Archive, these guys, like if you know any famous YouTubers, get me in touch with them or get them in touch with me, and we can maybe do something and that could help this channel. So why not? More on telekinetic creatures. Idle speculation says a telekinetic creature could be sessile and pull foods towards it. A telekinetic creature could like basically reach inside your brain and just do in the like in the inside of your brain and you just die. That's a great power. I wish I had it sometimes. Isaac Arthur, yeah, he's the techno optimist guy. I really like his work, really respect him. I would love to talk about like a futurist versus a technophobe. The Dark Master asks thoughts on Mustafa Kemal Atatürk. I mean, it's a it's a great there's a great discussion about where if history is ruled by trends and inevitabilities or if people make a difference. I think Atatürk was one of the last people who individually made a difference in history. And on that alone, I think he should be respected. I mean, you look at everybody who's like critical or about something about Atatürk's legacy, and okay, he wasn't, let's say, the most lenient leader, but I look at his critics, and there's not a single shred of humanity among them. They all have an agenda or a chip on their shoulders, so fuck him. And he has this cool adage, which I really stand by. Two actually. One is hayattaki en hakiki mürşid ilimdir, fendir, which says the greatest guide in life is science, which is sort of somehow right, but he said this in the 20s, never forget. Also, en büyük savaş cahilliğe karşı yapılan savaştır. which is to say, the greatest battle is that which is waged against ignorance. And sufficiently advanced ignorance is indistinguishable from evil. That being said, some people use Atatürk as basically a front to just like they're not different from the other gang. So I have profound respect and love for him and his creations. Hey man, just passing through while at work, says Craig. Have a good day at work, man. I think your work is the peak of you. Ah, thank you. You really think that way? Thanks. I'm just a weird guy talking about shit, drawing shit, writing shit. That's that. Matthew's Post-Human Academy says, does McDonald's still exist in the All Tomorrow's universe? And what? I, okay, it's canonical. McDonald's existed until the 20th century, and even after the Earth Mars war, McDonald's still kept operating. Real, says Marcus Hübner says, how not to drown in the army of distractions that the modern world constantly throws at us. Simple, my friend. This bad boy. Don't have a smartphone. Have a computer and then shut it off at 5. The human mind is a dog. It cannot regulate everything. If you have something, you're a monkey. You look monkey. If you limit the options, limit the distractions. Just gonna do a message check in the background and rest my throat. Some more messages. Dun, 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 dun. 4-minute warning. 4-minute warning. 4-minute warning. Milady asks thoughts on Serena by Sheeter Dylan Badja. I've given these thoughts numerous times before. I think it's awesome, but watch my previous streams and videos to hear more about it. I think it's one of the best spec evo projects out there. Squidlord says, are you a Trekkie, Mr. Kozman? I haven't actually watched Star Trek almost at all, but I really think it's got its heart in the right place. So I like it without having watched it. Geo-san asks, would you want to have your birth chart read? Yes, actually, if you do this, I would be forever in your debt. I was born in the 18th of May in the year of our Lord, 1984. And I was born at 1 p.m., like 1300 hours in 1984. Beware the savage lore of 1984. Come see, remember me. I love that song. What do you think about the works of Michael Michel Houellebecq? Asks Jerry Raccoon. Unfortunately, haven't read him. Let me look him up. Michel, French author of novels. He looks like a real badass. Well, I must read his stuff. He's one of these like controversial but necessary French types. Not necessarily likable. I don't know. I need to look him up. But thanks for this recommendation. Any thoughts on ammonites and how they would have evolved if they hadn't gone extinct? Ammonites are these like nautilus-like things that are like really, really elaborate and diverse. I don't know. I think they would have been like nautiluses or fish or like we got many weird creatures in the seas today. Sunfish, those swimming crabs. We just take them for granted. I think they would have been like and any other boring seafood creature. I think the Japanese would make some great ammonite dishes. I would like them to be around. Georges Vittelbach, Lorraine McLaren, Hoppy says, why is it the French that have the controversial but necessary people? What about other nations? Well, I think every nation has them, but the French really value them. In Turkey, we put them to jail. In the US, they're just drowned out by the go-getter mentality. Closest you had over there was Christopher Hitchens. He had like some like stupid ideas too. I mean, he was a proponent of the Iraq War, for example, which was really stupid. A lot of these new atheists like also were like dislikable, but that's not the point. The point is not to like the guy. They are assholes. That's already a given. The point is these people are like enzymes. They facilitate discussion, and that discussion in time evolves into good places that contributes to people, allows a kind of free discourse of ideas. And even if they're like dogpiling on these guys for all the right reasons sometimes, that's also good because they're drivers and movers and enzymes of ideas. So I think like every society needs some people like that, not to be liked, actually to be disliked and like to foment discussion. Giosen apparently is reading my birth chart, and it says there's a lot of stuff about my art. Okay, can you paste everything into a comment, and we could maybe talk more about it? I love all of your questions tonight, by the way. Like, I love how, okay, speculative evolution, sci-fi, these are great. But as the great Syrian actor Hassan Massoud once acted in the Ridley Scott film Kingdom of Heaven, he portrayed Salahaddin Ayyubi, which is the general who retook Jerusalem from the Crusaders. And when he has his victory, one of the Christians asks him, "What does Jerusalem mean to you, Saladin?" And then Hassan Massoud is a great actor there. He's like, "Nothing." And then he turns back, everything. So that's how I feel about Spec Evo. In some ways, it's a frivolous form of art. In other ways, it really like opens doors to these like more vital and in-depth discussions. And I really like evolving these discussions, and I really like evolving this whole scene towards this more like sublime and vital territory. So in that way, Spec Evo is good. I was asked this question before. If you had a time machine, if you could eat one prehistoric animal, which one would it be, and how would you cook it? I think I would have some like pan-fried anomalocaris in butter. That would be lovely. I burped. In some cultures, it's a sign of respect. The sun apparently is tied to Venus, which is the god of sex, but actually it's the goddess of art. So apparently my identity is tied to art. Good. Thank you so much, Geosan, for this reading. Blah 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 asks, do you have any interest in tarot cards? They're used for fortune telling, but they're more like a comic book with variable panel orders. I always juggled the idea of painting a deck of tarot cards, actually. But I've never had my tarot checked. I don't believe in it, but maybe subconsciously I'm also scared. I don't want to see that death card. So yeah. Yes, pan-fried anomalocaris with butter. Glaze it in red wine. Holy moly. Is it sweet or sour? I think it would be salty, like prawns, but saltier. Chocolate Squirrel asks that question. Does semen mean semen in my name? Because CM Kozemen, no, actually it doesn't. There are lots of Turkish surnames with actual word for semen in them, though. Döl. I know a person whose last name was Döl Arslan, which really means like semen lion, and I don't know. I don't know. That's weird. Checking messages again. My God, it's nearly 3 a.m. where I am. I need to go to bed soon. Time just flew by. Oh, it's late after this wine. Dromaeosaurus probably tasted nice too, says Death by Proxy. Probably. Bug Soda says 8 a.m. in China. Have a good day, my friend. Would you have lion powers or semen powers? Is this a forced choice? Probably lion powers then. Idle Speculation says, have you considered eating Arthropleura, the gigantic Permian or Carboniferous era millipede? No, because millipedes are covered with toxins. And this was a giant, I'm sure it had extra helpings of toxins against insects or like vertebrate predators. So hell no, I wouldn't try to eat them. Are there any Turkish brothers or sisters in chat? I know Zeynep was here, but anyone else? I received a message from the other end saying I should go to bed because it's butthole o'clock. Well, we're going to be doing butthole surfers tonight. Forgotten OH2, merhaba, another Turkish friend. Merhaba says Ruhsal Destek, whose nickname means spiritual support or mental support. Thoughts on Netflix's Alien Worlds? That was a really underrated documentary. It was really nice. It was this well animated documentary about alien planets. Not bad at all. It got lost in the Netflix susurrus, basically. Does any of your creatures have noteworthy body odors? Says blah blah blah. Yes, I had these like creatures with kind of have they were these like giant things with like hands shaped like clubs, and they actually like killed their prey by hitting on their heads. They had no digits, just like bony clubs. And one of those species sometimes, I just wrote it in the description saying it has a weird musky odor. The clobberers, yes, they were called. Thanks, Proxy. Skin sweet, skin sweet with musky odor, lady from another grinning soul. Dun-dun-dun-dun. Cologne she'll wear, silver Americard. Na 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 na. This is the that particular quote came from this David Bowie song actually. And when the clothes are strewn, don't be afraid, hey, of the room. Touch the fullness of her breast, feel the love of her caress. She will be your living end. Ding, 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 ding. With this insane pianos by Robert Fripp at the end. Man, what a song. Milady says, I love it when you sing. Well, I can sing for you all night. Okay, one last question. Hayden says, in all your travels, have there been any standout places you visited in the US? I went through, my visits to the United States, they were like for 2.5-ish years when I was studying in Cornell University, but that was like prehistoric. Then I visited New York several times. I drove from New York to Cincinnati and drove through Pennsylvania on the route. If I'd known better, I'd have stopped more often there. Got many friends in Pennsylvania. Then uh, I also drove from, I also visited Santa Fe, then flew to Seattle and drove all the way down to San Francisco. I love the small towns. Like somewhere in Pennsylvania, there was this town called Ephrata, which was like, I really magical. I just, I just like that place. I spent one night in a hotel there, and in the morning I kind of drove around the town before getting along with the road. That was really nice. And out there, the entire like the place where they call Jefferson State, which is like half of Oregon and lower half of Oregon and upper half of California, that's just sublime. The most one of the most beautiful places on earth. This man seriously survived the wastelands of Ohio. I actually liked it there. Like you have to understand, first thing I do when I go to the United States, unless I'm stuck in a city, I rent a car. Then I drive to the nearest Walmart, not even Target, Walmart. I just look at the products. Just look, man. Just look. Oh my God. They got everything. You fucking have everything. Unbelievable. Then I like one of my rituals is like stopping at a roadside Arby's or IHOP and eating. And then I stop at all these mom and pop shops and restaurants, bait shops. I had like homemade burgers and bait shops in the coast of Oregon. That was nice. A lot of these places, the American friends would probably maybe think they're like tacky or rednecky, but I like them. You should visit Chester, New Jersey. Let's see where that place is. It's like a nice rural kind of place. Part of the Morris County in the state of New Jersey, also known as the Sopranos Extended Universe. They say it's one of the best places to live in New Jersey. Yeah, If you can host me, like today, $1 just rose up, and now $1 buys nearly 30 of my currency. It's awful. Who would give me a bed to sleep in if I was over there? Did Walmarts have guns? Yeah, they did. Some did actually. Those I visited in Ithaca while studying for Cornell University, I, they had like these like racks of 22 ammo. Wow. Gun culture in the US, I don't know. I probably wouldn't like to have a gun in my house because, well, I mean, if you have a weapon, it will get used and it never ends well. Unless I lived in like rural Utah or Arkansas or something. But I would love to go to the range and just practice shooting. It's a nice sport if you do it right. Fort Wayne, Indiana. I have a place to sleep there. Thank you. Idle speculation says we should be able to open carry swords. Ah, thanks. I have a bed to sleep in Lehigh Valley. Thanks, milady. Yeah, I mean, gun culture in the US is a whole like tangled bag of worms we'd better not get in today. I actually have a bow and arrow hunting license from New York State because in uni we were forced to take PE classes and I chose archery and they made us like practice for bow hunting. You're supposed to shoot the animal here so its lungs collapse and it doesn't suffer. And then I won a special award for like 50 yards and I also won a special award for blood tracking. I like that stuff. Milady, I did see some of the questions, but because of time constraints, if you have any like one last question you want me to answer, let me know and I'll see what I can do. If they're about all tomorrows though, let's answer them another day. When will the next live stream be? I don't know. I'm here for a few more days. Maybe I'll do one the day after tomorrow. How about that? Can you give me the best Mr. Krabs impression? I have almost never watched SpongeBob, so I can't imitate Mr. Krabs. My thoughts about Dougal Dixon's work, I think it's very solid. Some concepts seem a bit baroque, but we're being harsh on it. Like he was the first person to bring this. It's like the Matrix effect. Without Dougal Dixon's work, maybe we would be a decade late in starting to discuss speculative evolution. So I really like it. I respect it. The creatures are iconic, sometimes not very realistic. Some of the creatures in the new dinosaurs are like strange. He imagines a world in which snakes never evolved, so we have like little theropods filling snake roles, which is unusual. But that's why it's good, I think. Creativity. It's nice. And she took his hands, took his babies, took him in and took her nowhere. Heaven knows we're not taking anything but all night. She was a young American. Do you remember? Your President Obama. Do you remember The drones you have to fly, or even yesterday. Thoughts on picky eaters? Oh, nice question, says Milady. Unless they're like, unless they're really observing something like halal or kashar, or unless they have a real like disability, but like a real disability, I I can't really respect picky eaters. Like, in fact, one of the things I used to do during COVID, nonetheless, was go to a mall, fucking take off that goddamn mask, go to the food court, take uneaten nuggets and stuff from tables people have left, and just eat them. Really, I mean, picky eaters always like pusillanimous characters, always driven by fear and disgust rather than curiosity. Difficult characters. I wouldn't get along with one. But then to each their own, of course. What about germs? If you drink something from other people's tables, that's the only risk. If you eat nuggets, come on, just goes to acid. Just falls to acid and melts. Come on. No, we're very resilient. Like, you usually get disease from drinking the same water, and if they have like saliva in it, or like being in close proximity, talking and exchanging water vapor, that's all. Well, I'm not going to scream as loud as I can. You said I'm not a picky eater, so maybe there is something about me that fits this other chaos guide. Nurgle. Papa Nurgle. Why worship a chaos god? I'd rather be another chaos god myself. Can you imagine what kind of Warhammer god I would make? Death by Proxy recounts a story where he would eat leftover food, probably popcorn at a cinema. Chad move. Was the Emperor in Warhammer an Anatolian? I don't know. I'm sick of these, by the way. I have to like tell about this. I'm sick of these like right-wing people trying to approximate Warhammer and trying to turn it into some sort of more Western civilization. Come on. It's just a game. It's just an artifact. Come on, bro. Okay, look, if you're germaphobes, maybe I was too harsh on them. Okay, I'll get along with you. Everybody's talking about their favorite food. I love grapes. Idle speculation as a view of me as a Warhammer god, surrounded by his menagerie of grotesque beasts, perched atop the back of a winged Kahitron. Nice. If I was a chaos god, I could date Slanish. Now, I don't like worshipping that shit. I could make her say, "Make me do your crimes, Daddy Kozman." Ah, nice. It's getting late. I'm devolving into Warhammer goddess fantasies, as you can see. And everybody's hungry. It's near dinner time down there, huh? Mystic Mystery asks, what's the best thing you cooked recently? Okay, here's a nice meal. I just buy beef or mutton, but I have it chopped into little cubes. Okay, that's step one. And just have like 500 grams or half a kilo of that shit. Put it in the pan. Put it in a pan. Oh, okay. Put it in a pan. Just let it simmer and boil for an hour. Add butter and a very little water. Also add butter, slight traces of water, rock salt, and lots of black pepper. Just cook that like this for 45 minutes to an hour, but let it simmer in its own juices and the butter, and then you get the softest, most tastiest meat dish. Lovely stuff. I love pasta also. It's I could like dig a tunnel in a sea of pasta and just live that way, like Pac-Man or Dig Dug. George Wittelbash asks, "Will your president ever be called to the Hague to answer for the crimes of the Salt Bay Nasret guy?" That guy is a sociopath. His restaurants here. Imagine if you're in the United States and somebody like Andrew Tate or Dan Bilzerian opened a restaurant. Never mind the quality of the food there. Nobody who has respect for themselves goes to eat there. It's overpriced. The meat is badly cooked. Almost everyone who visits that place is an asshole. So he has a bad reputation. Oh, you're all hungry. Now people are wanting infinite pools of cheese sticks, spaghetti. I'll have an infinite. I'll have an infinite amoebic ocean of mac and cheese. That would be nice. And also, I think people in the States are waking up to the fact that this Salt Bay food is just shit, and the restaurants only attract influencers and like people with no common sense. So good riddance. People are talking about mounds of mashed potatoes, oceans of mac and cheese, infinite pasta, chicken Alfredo that will never expire. Okay. I'm also a really big fan of this Turkish and also possibly Greek side dish called lakarda, which I think is sea bass meat exposed in a certain way that it's just like it's gained the consistency of butter and it's just salty and soft and just beautiful. Oh, we're really going for it. Nearly 2.5 hours. I missed all of you. Please consider supporting me on Patreon and buying me some buy me coffees, please. The links are in the description, and every penny makes a difference. Let's see. Let's see. Okay, slowly. Night says that by proxy. It's late everywhere. So slowly we're coming to the end of this podcast. Thank you all for joining, and I hope you all have a nice time. I was very happy. This was the podcast I'm happiest with so far. We had great conversations. We touched upon many serious issues. We sang. We just shot the shit, and that was just the best fun we ever had. Guy online says, "No, I just got here." I don't have a Discord server, by the way. Somebody asked this. I'm just too old for Discord. If One of you wants to make and manage one in my name, please do so. See you the day after tomorrow. I will really hold another stream. Friday. Okay. It's a date. Maybe at a slightly earlier time. Who knows? Just let's check our messages one last time. The wine also made me sleepy. I'm going to sleep like a baby. Oh, in the messages, one of my viewers has an Aladdin Sane lightning bolt as a tattoo. And with the David Bowie references, they felt great. Thank you. I was an obsessive David Bowie fan back in the day. Mystic Mystery, enjoy your scavenging quest for food. Still haven't finished the wine. Okay. I feel like this guy talking to his girlfriend. Don't hang up, you hang up, you hang up, you hang up. I'm really enjoying this. Still 20 people online, 51 likes, not bad. If I had a party with 20 people attending, that would be a good party, like a crowded party. Okay, I'm going to sleep like a baby. That's it, everyone. Have a nice day. Have a nice night wherever you are in the world. Thanks for joining this channel and thanks for joining this great discussion. Was one of my best so far. See you in a day and a half. And wherever you are, I love you all. Let's close off with another Lord in your nickname. I don't want to take risks, so I'll take your question. Oop, apparently there's a problem with stream buffering, so I'll take the question next time. Goodbye.